You've built out your campaigns, you've done your keyword research, and maybe you've even written some beautiful ad copy. But your Google Ad Grant account still has low to no impressions. So what's going on here? Well, unfortunately, this is not uncommon with Google Ad Grant accounts, but in this video, I'm going to go over 8 things you can do, 8 adjustments you can make to jumpstart your stuck Google Ad Grant account. So let's start with the quickest and the most basic option, which is simply checking your bid strategy. So you want to make sure you're using a conversion-based bid strategy. That means saying no to maximize clicks or manual CPC. Instead, you want something that looks like this. With this bid strategy, you're telling Google Ads, hey, go out and find conversions. But most importantly, when you use a conversion-based bid strategy, you're going to skip that $2 cost per click cap. When you're using manual cost per click or maximize clicks, you are stuck at $2 cost per click, which means you will have a very hard time getting those impressions. And if you want to learn more about the bid strategies available in a Google Ad Grant account, I have a quick 5-page PDF guide. You can check it out here. It goes over each of the available bid strategies in a Google Ad Grant account, when to use them, which ones to avoid, and how to get the most from each one. If you're interested in grabbing that, check the link in the description. So once we've checked our bid strategy, the next thing we need to make sure we have are conversions. So what is a conversion? Well, let's just make sure we're on the same page with that. A conversion is any action that's valuable to you on your nonprofit's website. So we need to have meaningful conversions. In other words, these can't be something simple like, just a page view or just somebody visiting your site. But on the other side of things, we need to make sure we have a conversion that's actually occurring. It can't be a conversion that's so down the funnel, so infrequent that it never happens and Google doesn't have any data to work with. So to show you kind of how important conversions are for getting impressions and getting grant spend, you can take a look at this chart. Now, I know there's a lot going on here, but we're going to break this down. So pay attention here. The cost line is the green line. So see how this line slowly trends down as conversions trend down with it. But most importantly, what we have highlighted here is at this stage, conversion tracking was removed from this account. So you see the red line, which is conversion tracking, ends up flatlining here. Now pay attention to what happens when our conversions flatline right here, starting at that point. Our green line, which is cost, steadily trends down to 0 or pennies a day, just about. Then once conversions get added right here, let's remove some of our clutter here. Once conversions get added here at this red line, see how our cost goes up? So conversions are critical for our conversion-based bid strategy. And without conversions, Google Ads doesn't know what to do. And so it's not uncommon to see accounts just get stuck. So make sure that you have conversions in place and make sure that they're not so infrequent or so bottom of funnel that they never actually occur. Next, we want to make sure, and this one's a little more detailed, we're through the quick fixes, in other words. We want to stay relevant, but we don't want to over segment. So let's talk about account structure really briefly here, okay? And what we want to do is focus on bigger audiences and bigger campaigns so Google Ads has more conversions to work with. There's conversions again. So let's do a quick refresher on what our account should look like. So here's an example of a Google Ad Grant account hierarchy or just a Google Ads account hierarchy. But with a Google Ad Grant, we need 2 ad groups per campaign. That's one of the rules. You can check out a video in the description on that. But we can see we've got our 2 ad groups here, and this is all sort of well segmented out. Our ad groups have nice themes to them. We're not trying to do too much with each one. So to show you an example of what this would look like with a build out here, you can see adoptions. So we have adopted dog, adopted cat, different types of donors, different types of volunteers. This is an example for an animal shelter, obviously. And the other scenario in which you would segment out is if you need to have really specific location targeting. So in this case, maybe we have ad copy that's really specific to Ireland or locations, and the same thing for US and so forth. So these are the reasons to segment our campaigns when we have these very different audiences, like adoptions versus volunteers, or very different locations that we need different ad copy for, like USA versus Ireland and so on. What we don't want to do is end up with something like this. So this is an issue of lack of segmentation. So in this tip, we're talking about lack of segmentation and over segmentation. So here we can see, imagine you have a local campaign for a local shelter, and instead of having it segmented out like we see here, or in some of the other examples, we end up with something like this, where our ad group doesn't have a clear theme. It's about cat adoption, it's about dog adoption, it's about returning a lost animal, and potentially many more things. I regularly see this when I audit accounts where there's one ad group that maybe even this is covering donors and volunteering and all of these different things. You can't have a relevant ad with this many keywords and one landing page. It's simply not going to work. And so as a result, you'll often just get no impressions because your ad isn't relevant enough to your keywords. We can also have an over segmentation issue. So you can see that here. Let's say this website has different articles about cats, and we end up with campaigns about cat behavior, cat health, cat toy. Well, it's fair to say that this is one audience, and there's really no reason we can't just have all of these users in the same audience. We can target all of these people in the same audience in the same campaign. When we split it out this much, we end up with different conversions not crossing over the different campaigns. That gives Google Ads less data. And remember, we already saw in tip 2 that without conversions, these accounts often get stuck at low to no impressions. So you want to find a sweet spot that looks something like this, where you have these themes and these campaigns based on audiences and these ad groups with tight themes that make sense, so your ads are relevant to your keywords and your landing page is relevant to those keywords as well. So check your overall account structure. Again, this one is not as straightforward as the first two. It's a bit of a bigger fix, but it is absolutely critical to getting those impressions. The next one we want to look at is simply not being afraid to wait. So I think, we often forget that Google Ads is a slow moving machine. This is a big algorithm that takes time to collect data and reflect the results of that data and the changes you make. To illustrate this, I want to share 2 screenshots. So in this example, cost is our red line. And what I want to tell you is that this trajectory right here, you might say, oh, well, some big changes must have occurred right here. That's not the case. The majority of changes in this account occurred closer to around here. And it just took some time here at this spot for these changes to make an impact. So don't try to change too many things at once and expect results within 24 hours. It takes time for these accounts to scale. You can see another example here. This one just has the cost line. So you can see in the majority of changes were really occurring here or around here. And the result that we got was not for several days up to a week later where we saw this upward trajectory in spend. So don't be afraid to take your time and let your changes settle. Next, this one's for local nonprofits. If you are only targeting a local area, try to expand that with concentric circles and then check your conversions to see which one of those circles convert. That's a mouthful. Let's break down really what that means. So Google Ad Grants struggle with hyper local targeting. That's because with a Google Ad Grant, you're really just getting a piece of a piece. You're always going to be stuck at a low number of impressions. So if you make that even smaller by targeting, say, just a couple zip codes, you run into problems where you're just not going to get those impressions. So whenever possible, try to expand your location targeting, and you can end up with something like this. So you can see here that this is a series of circles. So there's circles here, 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 and here. These circles are different radiuses from the location of the nonprofit. In this case, this is a cat shelter. Then what we can do is we can see these different circles, we can see the different locations that they're occurring, and with our conversions in place, we can come over here and see, oh, people are indeed converting from 100 miles away. It's going to be a little bit tricky to see, but there you go. That was actually 50, and here's the one for 100. So we can see people are converting at 100 miles away and at 50 miles away. So with this, we're able to expand our location targeting, expand how far our ads are showing, and validate that expansion and say, yeah, this is far, but people are willing to drive occasionally for 100 miles to adopt the cat that they really fell in love with online. So try to expand your location targeting whenever possible. And if you are a local nonprofit, see if you have an offer that could be relevant at the state level or at a minimum the metro level, and really challenge yourself to push that local targeting. Next, broaden your keyword targets and add more keywords. So you need to ask yourself, what else would someone use to find your nonprofit? And this gets into a little bit of advanced keyword research, which we'll go over. But if you want to learn more of this sort of thing that we're about to cover, then check out the school group, the Google Ad Grant Catalyst program, that goes over advanced keyword research and a lot more. In that program, you'll also have an opportunity to talk directly with me, join live office hours, and access 7+ hours of on-demand, structured, guided video training similar to the one you're watching now. Check the link in the description for that. Okay, so what kind of keywords could we add? Well, we need to ask ourselves, what else would someone use to find your nonprofit? And specifically, what keywords? So let's say you are trying to get this, a petition against animal cruelty. You're trying to get this signed, and you want to show up when people search this. Well, this is an obvious keyword, right? So petition against animal cruelty. However, there's a whole group of people out there who would be willing to sign your petition, but they wouldn't necessarily type in the word petition. So that's where we're getting at, right? The idea is, what else would someone use to find your nonprofit? In this case, that example could be how to stop puppy mills, right? We can take a look at the ads here, and we can see that indeed one of the results is this one. It's a petition to stop puppy mills. So this is a perfect result. This is a type of animal cruelty. So this is kind of the idea here, where you need to expand out and think a bit deeper about what someone would search for your nonprofit. What are you relevant to? What stage of the funnel? So somebody who's not just looking to sign the petition, but just wants to help. You can also create content like this. So this is from Best Friends. This is their answer to how to stop puppy mills. And they're giving a lot of information about how to stop puppy mills. They have a bunch of different links in here, including donate, including petition, legislative action, and so on. So lots of different ways to approach this, but just that sort of plants the seed to think about keyword research a little bit differently. And then the last one I want to give you here is consider adding a high target cost per action. So we already talked about maximize conversions. Instead of just checking maximize conversions, you can check this little box here and set a target cost per action. And in a Google Ad Grant account, you can set this very high. So I will often start out at $300 cost per action just to get the ball rolling and get out of that low impression to no impression sort of stuck phase. So feel free to experiment with this, and you can always change this back later. So let me know how this works. And if this works, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Drop a comment below. Let me know which technique you used and what it looked like for your results. All right. Thanks.